Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tip-Off 2022-2023. Dr. Ron Poniewasz and Professor Larry Kelly. We are your Tip-Off team, the award-winning Tip-Off team, 2 years running. Welcome aboard, Larry. Welcome to the playoffs after we've had our double bye as the Big East and Atlantic 10 Conference is used to.
I figured you dumped me, cuz, you know what I mean? I've been waiting for the phone call to do the podcast. Poniewasz is a no-show, so I figured you dumped me. You got something better, which wouldn't be a high bar, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back.
I give you a lot of credit for being a smart guy, Larry, and you know, I don't know, maybe I need to take that back, because as we sit here today on February 15th, we are after Valentine's Day, and I dumped you for 2 weeks. So what do you think about that? You know, can't you smell the coffee, my man?
Well, you got a better Valentine than me, that's for sure.
Oh, come on.
That's for sure. So,
all right.
But we're going to talk about some hoops, and we had a big game by a big game player, Neshannock Mohawk, sellout crowd, section title on the line, and Jack Glies goes off for 38. That's pretty impressive.
Yes, sir. He is our athlete of the week, Jack Glies, Neshannock, 5'10", senior guard. As Larry said, 38 points in a 67-57 win over Mohawk in a gotta-have-it moment, gotta-have-it spot for Neshannock. A win gets them a share of that section title, and a loss, puts them in second place. Larry also had 7 rebounds and 3 assists in that win. So just your thoughts on, you know, the key moment, him coming through in the clutch.
You know, I've always said it's one thing to score 38 points in a blowout, in a game that, for all practical intents and purposes, doesn't mean much and is over by halftime. But it's another thing to score 38 when the championship is on the line, against really your arch rival and a team who is equal to you, who had the same section record as you coming into the game, and to put up 38 to win the section championship is impressive. That's real. Those are real points there. You know, there's points that are scored when it really doesn't matter, but every one of these made a big difference in this game.
Mm-hmm. Neshannock is 10-2, finished 10-2 in Section 1-3A action. They go on into the postseason with a 16-5 overall mark. Jack Glies is their leading scorer on the team at 16.1 points a game. He also has 7.2 rebounds a game. By my number, 16.1, I believe, is their leading scorer. And again, 7.2 rebounds. So he contributes almost a double-double every time he steps on the court.
And he's the point guard. You know, that's impressive. He's also the shortstop on their baseball team. I've seen the young man play. He can play. According to the article, he's thinking about going and playing with my friend and former coaching colleague Carmen Nacera up at Penn State Shenango. So, again, you know, he does it all. To be able to score from the point guard position isn't always easy, because, you know, you're looking at a lot of double teams. You're looking at a lot of weak side help, especially when you're trying to take the ball to the cup from the top of the key. It's your job to distribute the basketball and make sure everybody else gets their shots. So to put up 38 and then add 7 rebounds on top of it is an outstanding performance in probably the biggest game of the year up until this point for Neshannock. As I said, they had to win to get a share of that section title, because Mohawk was coming into that game 10-1. So,
right,
great game, great atmosphere. It was a sellout crowd. I kind of like the move too. Neshannock said, we're not selling any tickets to anybody from Mohawk. So, you know, that's old Tri-County stuff. And that's why I said back in the day when I used to write for the Newcastle News, the rivalries in the Tri-County were great. Everybody knew each other. The players knew each other. The parents knew each other. And they were great rivalries. So it's nice to see that, Mohawk and Neshannock are facing off twice a year.
Yep, absolutely. So Neshannock now goes on into the WPIAL playoffs. The Lancers match up against Keystone Oaks. Neshannock is the 2 seed in Class 3A. Keystone Oaks comes in as the 15 seed. Keystone Oaks is 9-13. This game is set for 7 p.m. Monday on the Lancers' home floor. Larry, we'll talk a little bit more about Neshannock in their seed a little bit on our next segment, but just what does Neshannock do as a team, have to do as a team to maintain this momentum and not have a letdown?
Survive and advance. That's the way this goes, buddy. You better be laser focused for every game you're going to play, because a bad shooting night could end it. And I'm sure Coach Corey will have his team focused and ready to go. It was only a couple of years ago that they were a pretty prohibitive favorite against the Elwood City Wolverines on their home court and lost that game. So, you can't take anything for granted in playoff basketball. You can't. And, this is a trap type of game. They just came off a game in front of a packed house against the first place team, maybe their biggest rival in the section. And now you're playing a team that you should beat at home. So you got to stay focused. It's a trap game, but I'm sure Coach Corey will have these guys ready to go.
All right. Congratulations to Jack Glies, again, 5'10" senior guard for Neshannock for Athlete of the Week, and his 38 points in a 67-57 home win over Mohawk. Coming up next, we will have a random topic, as we will have what we like to call a speed round. We'll throw a bunch of topics out there, let Larry throw his 2 cents in, and I'll chime in with my brief 2 cents. We'll do that next, right here on Tip-Off.
There's one thing I learned growing up around here. People should look out for each other, be friends and neighbors that you can count on. So it bothers me when people who are hurt in automobile accidents get bullied by the insurance company. I don't let bullies run over my clients. I do what I was taught growing up. Step up, stand up, and speak up for those who can't. I'm Larry Kelly, and I'm a Newcastle guy.
We're back with you here on Tip-Off, and this is going to be our secondary topic, and it is going to be speed round. We're going to rattle off about 12 mini topics here, kind of like 12 rounds, like the movie that John Cena was in a few years ago. You want to get to the next round, you got to play by the rules, Larry. Otherwise, it could be an early knockout. All right, first round here of speed round. We got 13 total WPIAL playoff teams. 12 of them from the WPIAL. I don't know if we set an over-under total in our first podcast of the season for Tip-Off on how many teams we thought would get in. But if we set it at 12.5 and said over or under 12.5, where would you have said? Would you have went over or under?
Boys and girls?
Yeah, total combined.
That's a lot of playoff teams. I might have went under.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I might have went under.
All right. And how about over under 9 section/region championship teams? Over 8.5. Over under 8.5.
Now, when you say that, explain that to me. 9 section region champions. You mean section champs in Lawrence County?
Well, the WPIO is section and District 10 is region. So if you're talking section or region, and we go 8.5, I mean that's a lot of champions, conference championships. You going over or under 8.5?
Again, I'd probably go under. I mean, if I were at the beginning of the year, I'd go under. That's a lot of championships. That's a lot.
We had 4 boys, 4 girls. And the Wilmington girls, if they upset Greenville on Thursday night, would make 5 girls, 4 boys. That would be 9 conference championships.
That's impressive.
Yep, 8 section and 1 region championship is what we would have. That's an awful lot. And the game of basketball in the county continues to grow, Larry. The number of teams that get into playoffs every year, it seems to grow. Does that mean that the product is getting increasingly better each year?
It's always been good in Lawrence County. It's always been good. So I'm not going to say it's getting better. I'm going to say it's always been good. And, some years will be better than others. But in Lawrence County, it's never been bad. It's never been bad.
And remember, District 10 has the opt-out rule where everybody could go if they so choose. The girls for Wilmington will go because, they could win a region championship, so they deserve it. The boys are right now 2-19, getting ready to go on 2-20 because their 2 wins have been against Portersville Christian. But by rights, if they said, hey, let's go to the playoffs, that could have been 14 out of the 16 teams going to the postseason, leaving out Elwood City girls and Newcastle girls. All right. Ding. Next round, Larry. Next topic. The Newcastle boys. Well, this is a topic that you're near and dear to. 20-2. They got the number 1 seed in Class 6A. Have Norwin coming up Friday, February 24th, 7 p.m. at the Field House. Little scouting report on the Canes. Mini Red Hurricane report. Let's go.
Look, they got the best 2 guards in Lawrence County. With all due respect to some great guard play in Lawrence County, there's nobody better than Jonathan Anderson and Isaiah Boyce. Nobody, at least in my view. That's my opinion, and I guess I'm entitled to it. The thing that was really impressive with this team is when Isaiah Boyce went out for several games with a fracture in his foot, those players like Nikki Wallace and DeJean and Byron Lett and Anthony Chalella and little Ralphie Belendo, they stepped up and they made up the difference. Nikki Wallace went from scoring about 4 or 5 points a game to almost double figures in every game that Isaiah was out. The game against North Allegheny, if it wasn't for Byron Lett and Ralphie Belendo, we'd lose that game on the road. So I said at the time that when Isaiah went out, it's going to make us a better team, and it did. And the Hurricane, they're a prohibitive favorite to win the 6A championship. I don't see anybody beating.
Okay. Hang on one second, Larry. I got a phone call coming in. Mark Stanley's on the line. He had heard you. Somehow he's got this sixth sense that he knows you're talking about point guards around the county. Yeah, Matthew Stanley, very good point guard. Right. I'll make sure I tell him. Coach, good luck to you in the playoffs. I'm sure we'll talk real soon. Yeah,
everybody can have their opinion. And Matthew Stanley is a great point guard. Mm-hmm. But in Larry Kelly's view, and it's only my view, he's not better than Jonathan Anderson. If I got my pick on a playground, I'm taking Jonathan. I just am. I watched Jonathan Anderson from the time he was in 8th grade. And, that's like saying who was a better center fielder in the heyday of baseball, Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle. They're both great. I'm biased. This is a biased opinion because I coached Jonathan Anderson when he was in junior high, and I watched him the last 3 or 4 years. And so I'll admit my bias. But on the playground, I'm taking Jonathan Anderson first. That's just Larry Kelly.
I think one thing we will agree on, and I'm totally neutral on who's better. I think we will agree on the fact that there's 2 awfully good point guards within a 3-mile radius of each other in Jonathan Anderson and Matthew Stanley. The county has
Well, what about Bobby Fadden? You going to leave him out? What about him? What about Jay Rona? You going to leave those 2 guys out too? You're going to leave Jack Glies out after he scored 38 points in the section championship game? They're all great. They're great. Mm-hmm. But, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm a Jonathan Anderson guy. I'm an Isaiah Boyce guy because I'm biased, because I coached those young kids. I had them when they were babies. I watched them grow, and they're great players playing every day against great competition, and they stood tall this year, and I'm proud of my guys.
Ding. Next round, Shenango girls got the 1 seed this year, Larry. First section championship since 1986. What a season for the Shenango girls. What do you expect from the Shenango girls in the postseason?
I expect a deep run in the playoffs. I mean, they have quality players on that team, and they've played big in big games. The games that they had to win. The Freedom game at home, I saw that game. They took care of business. They're battle tested. I expect a deep run from the Wildcat girls. I really, really do. I expect them to make a deep run. And and they got a real legitimate chance of winning it all. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Third and final number one seeded team around the county is the Union Girls. Shared the section championship with Bishop Canevin, lost down at Canevin by 1 point, 37-36, rebounded and crushed the Lady Crusaders at home by about 25 or 30 points. It was a mercy rule game. Larry, what do you know about Union? What do you see from them and your expectations?
Well, I can just tell you that program has come a long, long way. I remember when my girls played basketball, Union was an automatic win. Well, it isn't anymore. Rob Nogue, who's only been in that program now, I think 3 years, has really turned it around. He got the young girls excited to play. And, that's important. At a small school like Union, you got to get the women who are going to play for you excited. They get excited at the lower levels. The numbers get greater at the junior high and elementary levels. And that program has turned around and they're good. And I would expect them also to make a deep run in these playoffs.
All right. Ding. Here we go. Next round, Larry. Mohawk boys. Speaking of automatic win, just not too long ago, a few years ago, the Mohawk boys, you could ring them up as an automatic win. And along comes Mike O'Lear, and he turns that program right around. And it didn't take, a bunch of years. It was practically immediate. The Warriors, 19-3, coast section champs with Neshannock. They're the 4th seed against Derry, 7 p.m. February 20th on Mohawk's home floor.
I'm sure Mike O'Lear would be the first one to tell you that it's all about the players. And they got 2 great guards in this, Bobby Fadden and Jay Rona. I watched those kids play in junior high school. I knew they were going to be great players. And they have continued to be outstanding high school basketball players. High school basketball is about guard play, Ronnie. Has been for the last 10 years, maybe the last 20 years, maybe the last 30 years because of that 3-point line. And when you got 2 guards like Mohawk has, you're going to win a lot of games. And these 2 kids are special.
Help me out, Larry. Does junior high basketball success translate more into varsity success more than it does in football? Because a lot of times in football, you might see maybe a Newcastle team succeed well, or this team or that team succeed well, and you think, okay, they're coming. And then by the time they get there in varsity, it just doesn't, translate well. That doesn't count for Laurel. It certainly translates out in Laurel for the way that football program has had that junior varsity success or junior high.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting and good question you ask. I'd say yes, more so in basketball. What I see as a 9th grade coach from junior high players, whether they're 8th graders playing up or they're 9th graders playing on the 9th grade team, it doesn't change much, Ronnie. It doesn't change much. I knew Isaiah Boyce was going to be a great basketball player when I saw him as an 8th grader playing for me on my 9th grade team. I saw Bobby Fadden as an 8th grader playing last year against my team. I knew he was going to be a great player. So I think success that you have at the junior high level, more so in basketball than in football, translates to the varsity level. Every one of the kids that have played on Newcastle's WPIAL championship teams, and since Ralph's been there's been 7 of them. I had them all, and these kids were players for me, and they continued to be players for Ralph, and actually developed more physically. Their mental aspect of the game got better, and but if you're a player as a junior high player, there's a pretty good chance you will be a player as a varsity player.
Okay, Larry, in about a minute, your thoughts on this. Tell me your feelings. Did Mohawk get hosed in any way out of a higher seed? Do you think they got disrespected down to the 4 seed?
Well, I don't think it's disrespect. I mean, again, their record was the same as Neshannock in the section. They actually had a better overall record. If they were a 3 seed, 2-3, if Neshannock was 2, Mohawk 3, or vice versa, Mohawk 2, Neshannock 3, I don't think you could complain too much. At the end of the day, you got to beat everybody. I don't care where they seed me. It doesn't matter. That was always our position at Newcastle. It does make a little difference if you're the higher seed in hoops, not because you get a home game. But listen, I'm gonna lace them up, and I'm gonna go play you. And after they announce the seedings, those seedings don't mean a thing.
Ding. Next round, Neshannock boys 16-5. They are the 2 seed, as we talked about in the Jack Glies Athlete of the Week segment. They will play Keystone Oaks, and that is 7 p.m. February 20th. Larry, Neshannock, very good season, co-section champs. All they do is win under John Corey. They make the playoffs. They win every year. That is a staple of that program. Just your thoughts on the consistency of Neshannock's program.
Again, I mean, every year when I coached the 9th grade team in Newcastle, we used to play Neshannock, and those were battles. Those kids from Neshannock are tough. They're well coached. Johnny Kozier, who's a varsity assistant now, used to coach the 9th grade team. Those kids played hard. They played intelligently. So it doesn't surprise me that the Neshannock varsity under John Corey is successful every year. It's important to have good coaches at the lower levels, especially in basketball, because you just can't roll the ball out there. And at Newcastle, at the 9th grade level, we're running the varsity's offense, we're running the varsity's defense, and we're trying to instill the laser focus and mental toughness that it's going to take to play at the next level. You need good coaches at the lower level, and the Neshannock's always had them, and that's why their varsity has been so successful in recent years.
Okay, ding. Here we go. Next round. This is the round where my blood pressure goes up, Larry Kelly, and I'm going to introduce it this way. Girls basketball, Neshannock and Laurel. They are the co-section champs. Section 1, 3A. They're on the same side of the bracket. Can the WPIAL get anything right, Larry? Anything at all? If they do, I want somebody to tell me when they get it right, because I have a pen and I have a calendar, many calendars, and I'll write it down. I'll circle it.
Well, maybe they do get it right because they know if those two play each other, which would happen in the semifinal game, you're going to get a big crowd. And if they match them up with Newcastle, you're going to get an enormous crowd. And it's all about selling tickets, my friend. So, hey, they're two of the best teams. There's no question about it. But, I think Neshannock is the 3 seed. They would rather be a 3 and have to face Laurel again than be a 4 and play the number 1 seed in the semifinal game. So, and again, I don't think Luann cares where she gets seated, and I don't think Jimmy Marcantino, my friend who coaches at Laurel, cares who he plays. The bottom line is, buddy, lace them up and let's go, and may the better team win. That will be a great game, and they split the season series, and it'll be a big crowd, and it'll be a great game. It's what high school basketball is all about, my friend.
Well, my friend, I might recommend you read the 152-inch saga that myself and Cody Pattison put together, and read the comments that are in there, and you'll find out how Luann Grabowski feels about the seed. You might feel how Jim Marcantino feels about the seed. And also, we went through this last year with Laurel and Neshannock on the same side of the bracket in softball. It makes 0 sense. Put them on the opposite sides of the bracket. If you want a crowd, you don't think Lawrence County is going to flock down to Pittsburgh and watch that game? I got news for you, pal. They will. And the Class 3A Girls Championship game scheduled for Friday, March 3rd at 3 p.m. What's right after that? The Boys 3A Championship game at 5 o'clock. You could have Neshannock in it. You could have Mohawk in it. I'm telling you, Lawrence County will be down there. That is a bad job by the WPIAL, putting them on the same side of the bracket. Bad job. Ding. Next round, Larry Kelly.
Okay.
Class 6A. 2 sections in boys, just 2 sections. We got 8 playoff teams out of 12 teams total that are in the playoffs. So is that an indication that we have too many classifications and not enough, leeway? We don't have them spread out enough. There's 2 sections in 1 classification.
Yeah,
that's
listen,
terrible.
I think you may need 6 classifications in football, but you definitely don't need 6 classifications in basketball. In hoops, Newcastle would have had a harder time winning a championship in 4A and 5A than they're going to have in 6A. That's just, again, my opinion. You know, and there's no skate here. You still got to win, and they're going to play some tough teams. But you're right. I mean, there's 12 6A teams and 8 make the playoffs. Yeah, that seems a little silly.
Yeah. Okay, we have 7 boys and girls teams in Class 3A. Ding, this is our next round. 7 boys and girls teams in Class 3A out of the 16 teams in the bracket will advance to the state playoffs. Too many, or do you feel that that's okay?
Again, those teams that get in the 6th and 7th seed historically have not made long playoff runs. They just haven't. It's a little bit different in baseball because baseball is dominated by pitching, and you know, you get on a hot streak and good things can happen. But in hoops, a 6th and 7th seed is not going to make a long playoff run historically in the PIAA playoffs. So you're asking me? That's too many.
Let's see if you stay consistent, because, you know, you always say, you know, if you don't have a very good record, you shouldn't be in the playoffs to begin with. I really think that they should cut those amount of teams down that go to the state playoffs. 7 is just way too many out of 16. That's practically half the bracket. That's a little less than half the bracket.
Right. I think you got to win 1 game, don't you? Or is it 2? You don't have to win too many. That's for darn sure.
Yeah. And speaking of that, did you know that the WPIAL is using the playback this year? It's not going to be follow the leader, pull you in, what have you. If you get to the quarterfinals, I believe it is, and you lose, you go into consolation bracket. Now you start playing games. You don't sit around and wait for 10, 12, 14 days to figure out if you're in, who you play. You like that situation.
I like that better than to play and, you know, to get in the team that beat you how to win the championship. So I do like that better. I think that's a good idea. So give them a little credit for that. You don't like to give the WPIAL credit. You don't like to give the PIAA credit. And I'm not a big fan of the PIAA. You know that. I'm a bigger fan of the WPIAL. I think they get it right more often than not.
Okay. Ding. The final round, Larry. If you get this right, you survive and advance for one more week of the podcast. Let's see if you can survive and advance. We got a Jim Valvano protege on line 1 here, Larry Kelly. All right, here's your final round, Larry. Over under WPIAL championship games for our local teams. The number is 5.5. Are you going over or under? And I will read it to you here. These are the key ones for you. 1A boys, Thursday, March 2nd. 2A girls, Thursday, March 2nd.
So 1A boys is Union, right?
1A boys is Union, 2A girls is Shenango. 3A girls is Friday the 3rd. That is Laurel, Neshannock, Mohawk, those type of teams. 3A boys also on Friday the 3rd. That is boys, Neshannock, Mohawk. Hey, Elwood City, I'm going to tell you something, Larry Kelly. Elwood City is going to make a little bit of a run. I think they're going to win at least 2 games, bare minimum. Joseph Roth is no joke, 29.6 points a game. It seems like every game he's scoring 40 points. So those are your 3A games. 1A girls basketball, Saturday the 4th. That is Union girls, number 1 seed. 2A boys, that is Shenango boys. That is Saturday the 4th. 6A boys, and that is naturally Newcastle, 7 p.m. So 2, 4. There's 7 games to speak of, and I set the number at 5.5. Larry Kelly, over or under? Juiced, -110 both ways.
Well, wow. I think I'm missing one here. I think I'm maybe missing one. I say over. I say over. And I mean, that was tough. If the line was 5, I'd bet my house on it. 5.5, one of the lower seeds got to win, got to get there. But I say over. looking,
Okay.
I put a check mark about, who I think is going to get to the championship game.
Shenango boys maybe could be that seed that could possibly do it. You think? I mean,
Listen to me. They got some guys that can stroke it. A couple of these guys, Zach Herb and Braden Ziegler, play baseball for me. These guys can stroke the three, and of course, Brody McQuiston is a tremendous player. So, yeah, for a lower seed, and I think they're an 8 seed. Look, I watched them play Aliquippa. That game was still in doubt with a minute to go in the game, so they can beat anybody.
If they win their first playoff game, that's an 8-9 matchup. They got Aliquippa.
They got the quips. I know they do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, they match up well with them. They know what they're doing. Let's put it that way. They can hit the three. They got Brody McQuiston in the post. That's going to be an interesting game. I think it gets to Shenango versus Aliquippa. Where they put it, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to put Laurel and Neshannock girls that game. The WPIAL
neutral court. The best place to play that one would be Newcastle.
It would be, but it's the WPIAL, and my theory is that they'll probably put it in the New York metropolitan area.
Now, again, I'm a fan of the WPIAL. Scott Seltzer's the president. He does a really, really, really good job. Unfortunately, what the WPIAL does and recommends isn't always followed by the PIAA. But, again, I'm a fan of the WPIAL. I am. They get it right. I mean, you're not going to get it right all the time, but more times than not, they do.
All right. Very good, sir. I appreciate it. You have survived and advanced. You have conquered all 12 rounds, Larry. You're standing.
Are we going to do a show next week or not? I mean, what should I do here? I mean, I feel like a jilted lover. I didn't get any phone call. There was no podcast. I figured I got dumped. And it wouldn't have been the first time I got dumped. I've been dumped before, but I'm almost used to it. But glad to be back. It's great basketball season, playoff hoops, survive and advance. Every year when I coached at Newcastle, before the playoffs would start, I would put the tape in. It's the show was called Survive and Advance. It was Jimmy Valvano's run of the 1983 North Carolina State Wolfpack to the national championship. So I'm not coaching hoops this year, but I'll probably put it in again because I love it.
Dumped, no flowers, no chocolates. We do have a candy cane over here. I could present that to you. That'd be your pseudo chocolate. How about that?
Here's all you need to know. I'm old, and because I'm old, I'm becoming sensitive. So don't forget me because you'll hurt my feelings if I don't get the call to do the podcast next week. Okay.
Well, hey, we're in the tournament now, so we're through the double bye. We will definitely see you next week. And we look forward to it, Larry, because you know what February is. Not only is it playoff basketball month, it is also award month. We have submitted our entries for the podcast to go for 3 in a row.
3 in a row, baby. The Triple Crown, absolutely. I think our podcast, selfishly speaking, was better this year than it's been in any years past. I really do. And that's in large part nothing to do with me. More to do with what you do and what the director of our groove ship, Pete Sirianni, does. So I thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of it.
Hey, I need a great sidekick, Larry, and you are that great sidekick. I knew that would bring a smile to your face, knowing that it's award month. So let's hope it's 3 in a row. That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We appreciate it. Best of luck to all the student athletes out there, males and females and boys and girls, teams, coaches, the student bodies, everybody, enjoy the playoff ride, get the victories, move on. We'll be talking about you next week. If you can, we'll have a new participant in the mix next week, and that'll be the Wilmington girls. They're going for a share of the region championship in District 10 on Thursday night at Greenville, and we'll have their playoff status next week on our show. He's Larry Kelly. I'm Ron Poniewasz. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next week.
I became an attorney because I believe in hard work, fairness, and human decency. In a word, justice. Our workers' compensation clients deserve justice because in an instant, their hard work turns into hard times when they get hurt on the job. No doubt, life is tough, but so am I. I've been fighting all my life, and I'll keep fighting for you. I'm Joe George, and here in Lawrence County, It's personal.